What does success mean to me? Is it always going to be tied to money, or is it tied to my purpose? And when I'm living in alignment with my purpose, that's happiness. And can you really put a price on happiness?
That's beautiful. I actually myself went on a huge spiritual day like about 3 weeks ago. And part of me taking off my watch was what you just mentioned. It was, you know, moving away some of the emotions I have in the business and putting them somewhere else. And so I personally did. I did exactly what you said. I scheduled my morning out where, okay, every morning I'm doing my meditation, I'm doing my affirmations, and I'm going to make both of my kids breakfast. So my wife doesn't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about chaotic stuff. And I don't even turn on my computer until 8:30. I just wait till 8:30 to come in here. It's really hard at around 8 when we get everything done early. And I'm like, oh, I go to work. But yeah, it has made such a huge impact already. I can see on me and the amount of energy and the amount of time that I'm getting done. And so that that morning negativity, I like what you said about I like what you said about not even checking the phone. I think that that's the last commitment I can make to myself as well, is just make sure I don't get up and check my phone before. I've been trying the cold showers myself, but it's hard to get into that routine. It's hard to get into the cold
It
shower routine.
it is. So I still like my warm showers. I will say that. But one little trick that I did, and I it's is what I have like a little mini fridge that sits on my bathroom counter. And this may sound fluffy, but hey, it works for me. I take a washcloth, I put it in water, and I do this at the beginning of the week. I put some eucalyptus oil on it, I roll it up, I put it in the fridge. So every morning I wash my face with this cold, refreshing eucalyptus. There's studies behind peppermint and eucalyptus and how that affects our energy level. So it sounds really fluffy, but hey, it works in the morning for me.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, and I call that fluffy because I think that this leads to some of the next topics I kind of want to talk about, which is, the business mindset and when these things really start taking effect. Because I remember when I opened my business about 7 years ago, I looked at mindset and I was like, oh, that's just clickbaity stuff. Like, yeah, I don't need to worry about that. I need to grind. I need to just go in there and work my butt off. And now that I'm at a certain point of the business, I think that this is a natural progression of any person. Is that and the variation of money can change, but at the end of the day, it's what does success look like to me? And like you said, the whole premise of why am I in this business? What am I really going to do? What is successful to me? And I think there's a huge mindset thing around that. And so I kind of want to get in with you a little bit on what you were just saying with the fluffy part, but kind of talking a little bit about how that works with roadblocks to success and
Mm-hmm.
what you've kind of seen and what you've kind of done to kind of overcome some of those.
Yeah. So you spot on just nailed this challenge that I would say is a consistent in my business and a consistent in my life, but it's developing the tools to overcome it. And that is this, what does success look like for us? And defining what success looks like for us. So I had a very successful career in corporate America. I was making a lot of money, and I started my career at 23 and was making six figures at 23. So to walk away from a salary, bonuses, stock options, company car, health benefits, all of that, I would say, is sometimes still a struggle because, as you know, in the beginning of starting a business, it takes time to build. It takes time to build that business. But anytime that I have that self-doubt, I take a step back and look at, what does success mean to me? Is it always going to be tied to money, or is it tied to my purpose? And when I'm living in alignment with my purpose, that's happiness. And can you really put a price on happiness? I used to have a suitcase that I never unpacked. It sat in my room. I had my toiletries that were separate toiletries in there. And I lived out of the suitcase 1 year before kids. I had 250 nights in a hotel, which means I spent more time in a hotel than I did my own bed. And when I think about what success looks like, and I think about what happiness looks like, what is happiness to me? Is it being on the plane all the time? Is it living out of a suitcase? Or is it being able to be home with my kids and to wake up in the morning and have breakfast with them and to pursue my passion and my purpose and what I do in my business, which is helping others? So I agree with you is really defining what success looks like for you and always understanding what your values, beliefs are and aligning your purpose to that. And that will sometimes be the fuel to look at, when am I experiencing self-doubt? When am I experiencing burnout and getting back into alignment with those?
Yeah. And you brought up a huge point I kind of want to discuss a little bit, which is aligning with your purpose, not just with you. I know you said when you were in the corporate world, you got to a point where it was toxic and which means the team wasn't aligned with the culture, really at the end of the day, or the management wasn't aligned with the culture. And so I'm very big over here on talking a lot about branding, and how it's not about personal branding. It's not about corporate branding, but it's about community branding. And it's really about not just aligning your goals, your values with your team, but aligning it with your customers and your partnerships. And you said you got to a certain point and that kind of was a roadblock for you, as you kind of said, hey, I'm rebranding myself. I'm going to go back and I'm going to create my own thing. What point in the business did you start seeing yourself in alignment with building much more of that community and building much more of that, hey, I want to work with like-minded people. I want them to follow the same purpose. I want my team to follow the same purpose. And how did that make you feel? And how did that work with your team and your clients?
So I had no intentions of starting a business. I was actually, I feared entrepreneurship. I was, like I said, I was successful in corporate. I was scared of taking risks and leaving that salary and the income. And so I had no intentions. The way that I started my business, when you're talking about branding, is it was right in the middle of the pandemic. I was looking for a job and I said, okay, well, I want to start attracting job opportunities. And in order to do that, I want to develop my brand. What do I want to be known for? And so I started to post on LinkedIn and then I started to also post motivational. Just, here is what leadership means to me. Here's some setbacks that I've overcome. And here's the tools that I learned from it and how it can help you. And I started to get responses from people saying, wow, thank you. I'd shared about losing my mom and how difficult that was. I was really vulnerable in my posts. And people started to reach out to me and say, thank you so much for that post. That post just gave me hope or inspired me or helped build my confidence. It's exactly what I needed to hear today at that point. So then people started to reach out and say, hey, do you do coaching? And I was like, okay. So then people started to hire me for coaching and consulting, and then people started to hire me for speaking. And what ended up being, I'm going to develop a brand so that I could track job opportunities, ended up building from having 2,000 in my community. And I like how you use the word community. It's not a matter of followers. It's a matter in your community. So it went from 2,000 to 25,000 in 2 years in my LinkedIn community, all just from being vulnerable, sharing some of the failures and the successes and the learning lessons along the way. And I was telling somebody earlier today that when you think about rewards and especially if you come from a sales background and you're earning sales you're earning awards for top performance, and sometimes we'll tie identity to the successes in our career, I much rather at this point, instead of earning an award for top performance, see somebody who is unclear on what their future looks like, who I have a client right now where she had earned top performance and she came to me and she says, I thought that winning this award would like give me more joy. And she's like, there's just something missing. And it ended up transpiring into her starting a business and her writing a book and her starting a business and she's a keynote speaker. And she has this energy about her that was missing. That in itself is the purpose. That I much rather have that as a measure for success than an award for top performance.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so you kind of have defined through kind of developing your values, you thought it was going to go one place, but then it kind of went another, and it kind of naturally went that way because you were able to go in and align with your purpose and find what you wanted. And in her case, it sounds like her company didn't really understand their culture too well and their purpose, because if they did, they would understand an award may not have been the best option.
Yeah, I mean, sales awards are definitely good. But I think right now what people have learned through this pandemic, the silver lining from it, I say, as in we're still in it, we're past it, but is there's more to life than just an award. There's more to life than a salary. It's feeling like you're valued and feeling like you have a purpose. And to her, she was successful, but that purpose was missing. And that's when she was able to discover it, understand it, and cultivate it. That was the fuel that makes the future limitless.
Well, that's awesome. I always love these podcasts because they actually, and it shows you that I'm aligned with my purpose, because every time I have these podcasts with wonderful guests like you, I tend to go through the rest of the day energized myself and ready to push forward. Because just knowing that there's people like yourself out there that have similar messages that are like, hey, we're here to help people, and that's our purpose. And that's how companies of all sizes should be looking at how they grow. And if we all did that, then our world would be such a better place, with people being able to engage. Social media has done so much to us, and I feel like it's trying to get away from that path of transactional and more towards community building is what's going to lead us all to a much better place. And so I really appreciate you being on today. It really means a lot. I look forward to hearing your podcast. And why don't you tell everyone a little bit about where they can find you and a little bit about some of the stuff that you have coming up down the line?
Yeah, so they can find me on pretty much any social media platform. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm just not on TikTok. It just seems to work. You talk about burnout, really, it can be you can burn out quickly by trying to master every social media platform. So I always focus on LinkedIn because that's where my audience, my community is. But that's where you can find me. My book, of course, coming out, The Grit Factor, Break Through the 7 Roadblocks Standing Between You and Achieving Your Goals. That'll be coming out at the end of the year. And then the podcast, The Grit Factor.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, again, Danielle, I really thank you for being on the Brand Power Analysis. Anyone can find this podcast on any of the major platforms, Spotify, Apple TV. And I look forward to us continuing our conversations in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.